The concept of the other is not an invention of 20th century philosophy, but its existentialist and phenomenological treatment by Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir gave it a radical new urgency and a specific vocabulary that would profoundly influence modern thought. To understand their contribution, one must first see the philosophical groundwork. The German idealist G.W.F. Hegel, in his master-slave dialectic, presented a foundational model. Consciousness becomes aware of itself only through encountering another consciousness. This encounter is inherently conflictual. Each self seeks recognition from the other while simultaneously trying to deny the other's independent subjectivity, reducing them to an object for the self. This struggle for recognition is the engine of history and self-awareness. Later, the phenomenologist Edmund Husserl focused on the intersubjective constitution of the world, arguing that our experience of a shared objective world presupposes the existence of other experiencing minds, or alter egos. However, Husserl's approach remained somewhat abstract, concerned with the constitution of objectivity. It was Sartre who took these ideas and plunged them into the concrete, angst-ridden reality of human existence, revealing the often violent drama of the gaze. Jean-Paul Sartre, in his monumental work Being and Nothingness, places the encounter with the other at the very heart of existential experience. For Sartre, my fundamental, pre-reflective sense of self is as a free, conscious subject, what he calls the for itself. I am the center of my world, the one through whom meaning and possibilities arise. The traumatic, defining moment occurs when I encounter the look of the other. Imagine you are peering through a keyhole, absorbed in the scene before you, wholly identified with your actions and intentions. Suddenly, you hear a floorboard creak behind you. In an instant, your world collapses and reorganizes. You are no longer a pure subject, you have become an object in the world of that other person. You are now the one who spies, a shameful being defined by their judgment. This is the power of the look. It alienates your freedom. The other's consciousness escapes you. You cannot control or fully know it, yet it has the power to fix your being, to define you from the outside. Your inherent freedom, which is your essence, is stolen and petrified. In this dynamic, the relationship is fundamentally one of conflict. Sartre famously concludes that hell is other people. Not because others are necessarily malicious, but because their very existence as free subjectivities outside of my control constitutes a permanent threat to my own sovereignty as a subject. I am forever in a dance of attempting to either assimilate the other's freedom or, conversely, to be swallowed up by it. In love, for instance, Sartre sees not harmony, but a desperate and doomed attempt to possess the other's freedom, to have them choose me freely as their absolute object, while I remain a subject. An impossible contradiction. Simone de Beauvoir took Sartre's ontological framework, the dichotomy between the free, transcendent subject and the fixed, immanent object, and performed a brilliant, devastating sociological and historical analysis with it. In The Second Sex, she asks the seminal question, what is a woman? Her answer is not biological, but philosophical and social. He is the subject, he is the absolute. She is the other. De Beauvoir argues that in patriarchal society, man has set himself up as the default human subject, the one. Woman, by contrast, is defined not in herself, but relative to man. She is the deviation, the alterity. This is not a natural or inevitable condition, but the result of a historical process of oppression and socialization. Man, as subject, identifies himself with transcendence, the project, ambition, creation, and action upon the world. Woman is relegated to the realm of immanence, repetition, passivity, confinement to the biological life cycle of reproduction and domestic maintenance. She is the object, the inessential other, whose purpose is to confirm the subjectivity of man by being his mirror, his prize, his caretaker. De Beauvoir's profound insight was to show how this status is internalized. Woman is born, but she is also made. Through education, culture, language, and myth, she is taught to see herself as the other, to accept her objectification, and to seek her identity and value through the gaze and approval of the male subject. This creates a fundamental alienation. A woman experiences a rift between her inherent human capacity for transcendence and freedom and the social destiny of immanence imposed upon her. She is encouraged to become a passive object, an embodied mystery, which de Beauvoir critically examines in the figure of the woman in love, who gives up herself for her lover, or the narcissist, who makes herself a perpetual object of her own gaze. The famous conclusion, "One is not born, but rather becomes woman," encapsulates this entire process of construction as the inessential other. While their theories are deeply intertwined, crucial tensions exist between Sartre's and de Beauvoir's conceptions. Sartre's model in Being and Nothingness is presented as a universal, ontological structure of human relations. The conflict between subject and object through the look is portrayed as an inescapable fact of existence, a kind of original sin of consciousness. His analysis, while powerful, can feel abstract, symmetrical, and locked in a perpetual, hopeless struggle. De Beauvoir, while accepting the ontological baseline, historicizes and politicizes it. For her, otherness is not a symmetrical fate. In the real historical world, the relationship between men and women is not a Hegelian life and death struggle between equal consciousnesses, but an asymmetrical oppression. One group, men, has systematically established itself as the subject and made the other group, women, into the object. This is not a metaphysical inevitability, but a social injustice with material and historical roots that can and must be changed. Her work injects a powerful ethical and emancipatory dimension that is less pronounced in Sartre's early, more nihilistic account. Furthermore, de Beauvoir pays more nuanced attention to the phenomenology of the oppressed, the lived experience of being objectified from birth, and the complex ways in which one can be complicit in or resist that objectification. She explores the possibility of reciprocity, a genuine recognition between free subjects, not as an ontological impossibility, but a difficult ethical achievement that requires the abolition of oppressive social structures. The legacy of their joint exploration of the other is immense and permeates contemporary thought. It provided the foundational language for post-colonial theory. Thinkers like Frantz Fanon, in Black Skin, White Masks, directly applied and critiqued this framework. Fanon described the traumatic experience of the black man being fixed by the white gaze, not just as an object, but as a racialized object, sealed into that crushing objecthood. For Fanon, the othering is triple-layered: ontological, historical, and epidermal, born from the specific violence of colonialism and racism. Feminist theory after de Beauvoir has relentlessly explored the mechanisms and implications of woman's status as the paradigmatic other. The concept underpins critiques of the male gaze in film, the analysis of patriarchal language, and theories of gender performativity. It also informs critical race theory, queer theory, and disability studies, all of which examine how dominant groups, white, straight, cisgender, able-bodied, constitute themselves as the normative self by casting different groups as the deviant other. This process of othering is revealed as the fundamental mechanism of social power, identity formation, and exclusion. The ethical imperative that arises from de Beauvoir's work, in particular, is a call to break this pattern, to create a world where reciprocal recognition is possible, where difference does not imply hierarchy, and where every person can assume their transcendence without reducing another to immanence. The concept of the other, as developed by Sartre and Beauvoir, thus moves from a description of an existential shock to a powerful tool for diagnosing and challenging all forms of dehumanizing oppression. It reminds us that to be free is not only to assert one's own subjectivity, but to consistently acknowledge and respect the irreducible, uncontrollable, and equal subjectivity in every other human being.